Welcome to this edition of Canola TV, featuring the latest information on producing and marketing winter canola in the Southern Plains. Canola TV, a service of PCOM, Producers Cooperative Oil Mill.
Howdy neighbors, welcome back to Canola TV. So glad to be along with you today, and joining us is Josh Bushong, who is our state canola extension specialist with Oklahoma State University. Josh, this 2012 canola crop is looking pretty good right now as we get to the end of the month of March. Tell me what you're seeing around the state.
Well, Ron, you're correct. With these recent rains, the crop has definitely made a turn for the better in some areas. Especially down in parts of the state where they've been still a little bit drought stressed. This rain has really helped remarkably to get that crop where it really needs to be. Most of it is still ahead of schedule compared to previous years. We're around maybe 10 to 14 days earlier than what we should be. We're still not sure if that will translate into a longer pod development period or if we'll just have an earlier harvest, but hopefully we'll have enough time to be able to set enough pods and make some really good yields.
Now, we're 3/4 of the way now, fully blooming.
Some of our earlier varieties in southern parts of the state, we're starting to get past that optimum full bloom period. We're starting to taper off a little bit, but like I said, with these recent rains, it's started to create a lot more pods and really fill in some marginal stands. Have actually been able to have a little bit more time to fill in some areas where it needs to, so hopefully it'll still be able to get some good yields on some of the marginal stands.
What you mentioned the fact that we need obviously a good pod setting period. As the plant works its way toward maturity, when is that, when do we really see pods start to set on?
Shortly after the bloom falls off, you'll see the pods start to develop. Most of the time we try to retain as much flowers as we can, which will translate into more pods produced. And obviously more of the secondary and auxiliary buds will put on some more branches if it needs to, but the main crop is that first raceme or first head, and that'll be the main crop. Like I said, depending on row spacing and how thick your stand was, the plants do compensate quite a bit and are able to fill in areas that can get up towards maybe a square meter if it needs to. So
now we've talked before, and I know it's been emphasized at all your canola meetings I've been to, last year at Lahoma and ever since then, and I know this is one of your points of emphasis as we go forward. This is a crop that needs more management than a winter wheat crop.
Yes, Ron, typically it does take a little bit more management than wheat, or than wheat growers typically provide for their crop. But it does take a little bit more extra time scouting, make sure we don't have bugs. We do typically have more insect problems in canola than we do wheat, but most of the time it's just within a few species, usually aphids or false chinch bug or some other Lepidoptera like diamondback moth larvae and stuff like that, where they need to take some time and scout their fields, make sure they don't have any insect issues. So.
Well, let's talk about what disease or insect problems, weed problems are we seeing right now in canola?
Right now it's mostly aphids that we're concerned with from here till harvest. Mostly cabbage aphids and green peach aphids. So they do need to inspect the lower leaves all the way up to where the pods are developing, check inside the buds, see if there's any in there. And typically false chinch bugs don't come in till later in the year. Unfortunately, last year they came in quite a bit earlier and caused a lot more problems than we historically have seen. So we are keeping an eye out for false chinch bugs. And this year, since as mild as the spring and winter's been, we are seeing more the diamondback moth larvae than we typically do this time of year. So keep in check on all those. Make sure if you do have a problem, you get in there and spray it if you need to.
And so we need to be watching for those economic thresholds where we need to spray.
Yes, correct. Some of them we don't have a solid threshold yet, but you just need to kind of consider what your yield potential is, and if you can afford and get across there in a timely fashion to get them sprayed before they cause significant damage. Most of the time, some of the stuff that like the diamondback moth larvae is more or less cosmetic to the leaves, but once they start infesting the racemes or the heads, they really limit pod production. So
Thank you, Josh. Josh Bushong joins us today from Oklahoma State University, our state extension canola specialist. And I'm Ron Hayes today for Canola TV.
Canola TV, a service of PCOM and produced by OklahomaFarmReport.com.